fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simonds. Like diamonds.
Hello, South Strong Nation. Joe Simonds, like diamonds. We are back. Another episode. We're getting close to the 200 mark. Can you believe it? Luke, remember when we started this bad boy?
Seems like just yesterday there, Joe. That's crazy, 200, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think we're there yet. I think it's 190 something, but who's counting? And what's funny, one of our first guests many, many moons ago was Tony Acevedo, like avocado.
Back.
Kid's back. So I got Tony. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you see us. If you're listening on the podcast, got Tony Acevedo, fishing coach here at Salt Strong. Luke Simonds, fishing coach here at Salt Strong. And these guys just got off pretty doggone awesome weekend. Luke and I fished the same tournament last year and did well, did actually very well. They changed some of the rules that certainly benefit us, meaning people that don't fish for the 24 hours, because that one year they basically open it up. This is an inshore, snook, redfish, and trout, a slam tournament. And the prior year, it was what looked like it was midnight they could start.
Yeah, it was a midnight start last time, which which didn't bode well for us because, first of all, I like my sleep, and I just love artificials more than anything. So we're doing artificial only, starting at sunup, and then going against people who are using live and cut bait that are fishing all night long. So that one was a feat, but we actually came pretty close. Yeah,
we still came really close to having a shot at winning. And some of those guys and gals were just sitting there soaking cut bait the entire night, sleeping on their boat, waiting for their rod to start screaming. Anybody can do that. So you guys come in here this year with a vengeance. Artificial only, slam shady only. We'll talk about this too. It's interesting. Tony had the old slam shady, the Z-Man. Luke had the new 2.0. You guys both caught a ton of fish. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the types of spot, and really just kind of how you did it. It was kind of a crummy weekend. So talk about that first in terms of weather and wind. It's just been a windy year.
Yeah, I'll start it off, and it was basically it was I guess just this past Saturday, but it was a big cold front had just come in. This was a cold front in March, where it got down to like the low 50s and temperature wise, and the wind was ripping from the north. And so in my mind, the snook bite was going to be the toughest because snook, they just really don't like cold water. And the wind was so strong. I mean, it was like a legit 15, probably up to 20 in many cases. It was so strong that it blew a lot of the water out. So we had a really low tide in the morning, and the wind was just so strong that the tide never really came in. So it was one of those days with just ultra low tides, and it was cold. So I literally had 3 layers on, including all long sleeve, including like a rain jacket on top. And I didn't take it off the whole day. Like it was literally just freezing cold out there.
You have long johns on too?
No long johns.
Oh,
I had my fleece line pants and a big poofy Columbia jacket on all day.
Tony going snow skiing.
Yeah,
it was nuts. And so I went out the day before doing a little pre-trip planning just to kind of see what was out there. And I was looking for snook specifically because this cold front was coming in. So I just wanted to try to find some snook. And I did find some, but the day before the wind was, it hadn't quite turned from the north yet. It was actually coming from the south, and it was just starting to make the turn. But the spots that I was the day before, I literally couldn't even get to. I mean, it was literally like a 2-foot, it was a very, very large tidal swing.
And where were you? What were the rules this year? I didn't even see them in terms of where could you fish?
It was pretty open. It was held out of Bay Pines Marina, which is in kind of like North St. Pete area. And the boundaries where you can really fish anywhere from, I think it was like Newport Richey down to Boca Grande, or maybe even further. Than the people I was chatting with, most of them were in the Tampa Bay area. One was in Clearwater. So it was basically mostly around Tampa Bay, but plus or minus north or south. But it was slam tournament. So, snook, redfish, trout, and the longest of each species. So the total length of the longest of each three species, and you had to get a slam. So if you didn't have a slam, the slam trumps everything, right? So if somebody caught like a 40-inch red and a 40-inch snook, which would be 80 inches, somebody with 3 fish that are 50 inches would have won. So it was really, really important to get a
Basically,
slam.
don't even show up to weigh in if you don't have a slam.
But again, the captain's meeting, like a lot of people were talking about, man, if somebody just gets a slam, they're going to win because the weather was so bad. It was just one of those days where I would not have been fishing had it not been for a tournament. It was uncomfortable, but just like we always preach, right? If the fish, there's always going to be some fish that are willing to eat as long as you have a game plan that is consistent with the conditions, and that's what we did, and that's why we caught a lot of fish. We caught fish actually all day long.
Did you follow your smart fishing game plan?
Yeah. So for those who don't know, for our insider club is every Friday we do a smart fishing game plan where it's under 10 minutes talking about the recent trends and then the upcoming weather and then what to do. And so this tournament was on Saturday, and so on Friday I did the game plan this week, and I literally did exactly what I described in the game plan, and it worked. It worked perfectly. I mean, again, it was shocking. I was going through and we actually captured the whole thing on film. And so Tony, I was looking at the GoPro footage, and you caught the first snook. So my very first cast, I jumped off a trout. So my first cast, the trout, I was pulling it to get on the boat, and it fell off right down by the side. I was like, oh man. A little bit bummed about that, but it's bad luck to catch a fish the first cast, so I was like kind of happy. And then it was Tony's third cast is where we caught the first snook, and that was the fish that I thought was going to be the toughest.
Was it a big one, the first one?
First one was 20. Is it 22, Tony?
22.
Hey, put you on the board, baby.
It was decent, yeah.
Yeah, but it was bigger. Like I was just hoping to get, like when I was going out the day before, I was looking for like 12, like the little tiny snook back in the creeks because you can always catch those. Like those are a lot easier. Yeah, so I wasn't going to cast net them, but I just
anyone listening, that's against the rules.
Yeah. But I just wanted to. I was like I was confident that the snook bite was going to be the toughest of all, and so I was just looking to find some snook. So as soon as he got that snook, that was literally in the first 3 minutes, we had a decent sized snook on board and a trout. And so shortly after Tony caught that snook, I finally got revenge on a trout, and
big one.
Yeah, the first spot. So it was off to a good start. And so then we had like all day long to catch a redfish or to upgrade the trout.
Was the trout big? What was the size?
The first one wasn't big. It was like, I think it was 11 inches, but it was a trout, right? We had 2. And on a day like that, just to get a slam was going to be, was a feat in itself. So the first spot was again, exactly what the game plan talked about, which was we were fishing docks. And specifically docks with deeper water nearby. And so, obviously I saw the wind was coming from the north, really strong. We know that when that happens on the Gulf Coast of Florida, it's going to, from the Northeast specifically, it's going to blow the water out. And so we knew the water was going to be lower than normal. And so the easy decision is to go fish deep docks. And that's where all the fish were. And
wind protected docks?
Yeah, mostly wind protected, but we actually tried some that had a little bit of wind exposure, and that's where we caught the I guess that wasn't it was the biggest trout until a little bit after lunch. We finally upgraded that. But yeah, we caught a trout that was 19 and a half inches. And so that was around like 8:30, Tony, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, and so and we just again fishing docks, skipping the slam shadies up under the docks. So Tony caught the first snook. Tell him about your second one, because I think we caught the second snook before the trout, right?
Yeah, we got the second snook before the trout, as we believe we went up the shoreline, then we came back down, and it's when we came back down in the almost exact same spot I caught the first snook. I made a cast in between the 2 docks. It wasn't even on the dock, because the way the shoreline was, there was like a seawall, and then there was like 20 feet of ground that was just exposed because the water was so low. And then about 10 feet out from where the water was up against the shoreline, I just made a cast out to the middle, was just slowly dragging the slam shady on the bottom, and it got slammed. That was a 33-inch snook in between the docks. Luckily, I was using 10-pound braid, and I think it was 25-pound leader on that one. And it got hooked right in the corner of the mouth. It was perfect setting. If I would have hooked that fish under a dock, it would have been game over.
Yeah, or if it was just a little bit deeper in his mouth, like that was
Yeah.
it was the perfect situation. Because I just remember I just looked over and Tony's rod's keeled over, and then I heard his drag going out, and I was like, oh my gosh! And the snook head shows up. I was like, oh man, this is like I knew it was a big one immediately. And I almost botched the net job too. I had a net out there. I don't use nets very often, and I was going down to net it. Now I'm sure Tony's heart sank because mine sure did. But I was going down to net it, and it's that net, it's that folding net, Joe. Remember that the one we used last year actually.
Yeah.
And you had this. We had the same thing last year too. But like the very front of it, it's flimsy. So like when I put it in the water, I'm used to the Bubba net that I've been using lately, which is like hard all around, but it's just too small for like upper slot fish. And so I had the foldable net, and so I was going down to dip it, and it put its head down real fast, and so the hook got caught in the net, like on the outside, like, and I was just like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. And so I was trying to like get my other hand down and grab it. And finally, it came unhooked, and I got him in there real quick. Man, it was.
Do you have all that on video?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Hey guys, if you're listening and you're
I had my head cam on as we're watching it. Go ahead.
Somehow he didn't curse at me or call me an idiot.
No, I was going to say, if you're listening and you're an insider member, not only do you get to see all this footage, we'll put a little bit out there publicly, but we actually show our spots. You get to see exactly what dock they were fishing at, and our insider members get that every week. We're going to new spots. Luke and I are going out tomorrow. I think Tony's going out Thursday, and we're doing that every week, showing you exactly where we fish. And to Luke's point earlier, this smart fishing game plan, because I think the biggest thing we hear from our insider members is, I'm too busy. You guys put out so much content, and there's new stuff going up every day. I don't have time to go through it, and that's why we created that smart fishing game plan. It's like, if you don't have 10 minutes a week for someone to tell you where to go fishing, then you're too busy. You should probably go take up knitting or something else. But it's amazing, right? I mean, what's so cool is you actually had to go on Friday, because I watched the video, and you had to basically say, here's what you should do, and when money's in the line, here's exactly where you should go fish, regardless if you're in Texas or Florida, the Carolinas. You guys did it, and you ended up tying for first place, which is pretty awesome. Only using artificial lures, and I know everyone else in the tournament was using live bait, which is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, and part of the game plan is hey, here are the lures you should be using. And I mentioned slam shadies on jig heads and gulp shrimp on jig heads. That's exactly what I specified, and that's all that we used.
And for you not listening, slam shady is the custom lure. It's a paddle tail lure that we have created. It's started off as a color with Z-Man. Now we have our own little paddle tail mold, a different version of it, and a 3.5 inch that's much easier to rig. And doggone it, the thing works. I think we're now it might be at 49 species. You see that 2 more came in.
Yeah, California.
California, 2 more this week in California. So we're getting really close to 50 species caught on this, this one lure color, which could be a world record. Actually, it is, as far as I know, because no one has documented it otherwise. So.
Yeah, and go ahead, Tony.
I was gonna say, so going back to the weekend game plan, the following, or actually that same week, I had gone out fishing and I was catching a bunch of black drum on blue crab, which was totally opposite of what we would be doing for the tournament. So, I mean, I actually went and watched the game plan that Luke put together, and that definitely helped on the trip too. So you can see it works for everybody, not just beginners or people that are fully experienced. Definitely helps out.
Even when the pressure is on, money's on the line, baby.
Money and pride. You have to put something on the board when everybody knows you're going to be out, especially in tournament time, right? You have to show up in the tournament with something. But as Joe said too, part of the Insider Club is we do go out and show our spots, and we're not showing our spots to say, hey, just fish here. That's what rookies do. It's not about like GPS spots. It's really about, hey, here's the exact spot I was in, and here are the conditions. And so it's just the best way to learn. It's the best way to see and understand the type of spot to look for based on conditions. So type of spot, as we always preach, type of spot based on conditions, trumps GPS spot. So like toward the end, so Tony caught the 33-inch snook. I think that was at like 8 o'clock or maybe even 7:30 or 7:40. It was pretty early.
Yeah.
Then we went around and kept fishing more docks, and then I hooked into a nice trout. It was we didn't get a measure on it, but it was definitely pushing 20 inches, and it got off, and I was just so bummed because I didn't think we'd have another shot. And so I turned back around. The wind was hitting us pretty good at this point. So I turned back around, collected myself. I was not very happy. I hate losing fish on tournament days, especially big ones. And so I got another cast in the exact same area. And it was like 2 casts later, I hooked up again, and it was a 19.5-inch trout, which was probably about the same size as the first one that I lost. But so anyhow, from this point, we had a big snook and a solid trout. And so now it's okay. Let's just catch a redfish.
So how many places had you fished so far? You've mentioned this row of docks. Have you moved a bunch, or are you staying real close?
It's basically just 2 different dock lines.
Okay.
And the first one we fished twice and Joe, it was just like last tournament, right? If you find fish, stay on them. And so in Joe's last time, we found a shoreline with a lot of fish, and so we fished it once.
Hey, let's leave.
Yeah, literally went straight back down, and every time, and we went back a third time, and every time we zigged and zagged, we caught some more fish. And
then we left, and we we should have just stayed there the whole.
Yeah, then we left. Like we saw some good reds, and then we left to go find redfish like idiots, and that was the fish that we had the hardest time getting. But in this case, Tony and I, we had already caught the trout, we already caught the snook, and it just wasn't looking good for redfish. Like we didn't see any, nor did we hook any or anything. So we picked up and moved and went to a little creek that I actually explored the day before, and I caught a redfish there, a little small one, and literally my first cast back to that spot, I hooked up, and it felt like a red. Like I'm 99% sure it was a redfish, and got it about halfway in, and the sneaking hook fell out again. So I was just like so bummed. And then we kept fishing back in this creek, which usually holds some redfish, and Tony just kept catching more snook. Like every time I look over, Tony's rod's been over, and another snook on. The snook bite was shockingly good. And Tony, I think you switched to gulp shrimp then?
Yeah, when we got to the creek, I switched to a gulp shrimp, got a snook on a gulp shrimp. And I feel like whenever the water is more dirty, the snooks seem to become more active. Like if you're fishing really clean water and there's snook around, they seem more alert what's going around. They can get spooked very easily. And the water was pretty stirred up on this trip just because of the amount of water that was moving and also the wind and everything else.
Yeah, there's no regret. And I had stuck to the Slam Shady. I was using the Slam Shady 2.0 the whole day. And I see that red I had on the Slam Shady 2.0. Yeah, Tony kept catching the snook. Yep, just showing it there.
Oh,
and what that is, it's a 3.5-inch paddle tail, which is I just really like it. It's a perfect size for just really catching anything that's feeding on small bait fish. But so that first, so the creek didn't work out. Only snook, no reds, other than that one I missed. And so then I had one redfish spot that has actually been producing really well the past couple weeks. So I just moved to St. Pete about 2 months ago. So this area is pretty new. And this is like, Tony, this is your first time fishing St. Pete? Or maybe once before?
Fished there before when we filmed with CA. It was close to that same location.
Yeah, and so we're both relatively, we haven't been fishing here forever. Like we're relatively new, and again, that just comes back down to the type of spot. It's not about spending 20 years fishing an area to learn it. It's just learn the type of spots based on conditions, how fish move, and why they move to where they go, and you'll be able to catch fish regardless. So, because I think every spot that we went to, actually no, almost every spot we went to, we at least caught something. We at least caught a snook, red, or trout. So after the creek, we went this other little dock line. It's actually, Joe, the dock line that you and I fished that first time you came over, and you caught that red by that dock,
mm-hmm.
And they were there. And so I got a cast up, or actually on the way to that dock, I caught a snook that was maybe 24 inches. We didn't measure it, but it was a little bit bigger than the first one, not nearly as big as the 33. And so I was feeling good. Finally got a snook on board, and then I skipped under that dock and caught a little snook, a smaller snook, and And then I didn't tell Tony where the better spot was. I got my first cast in there and redfish finally. And still on the Slam Shady. It was like a 16-inch red, but like it was just felt good to get the slam. And I think the math, what was it? Whatever 16 plus 19 and a half plus 33 is, like that was a legit slam for a cold day like that. And so I was feeling pretty good at that point, just mostly relieved from having the slam. And then Tony, I'll let you go from there. So it was
what
like,
time is it right now? What time?
It was about 10:30, 11.
Yeah, I think it was 10:30. It was just before 11.
And what time did you have to leave to go to the weigh-in?
4. So we had plenty of time still. But yeah, so anyhow, we finally took pictures of the smaller red, and then started creeping right back up to that same area. Tony got a cast in there. At least I look over and his rod's keeled over.
Yeah, it was funny as we were talking about, all right, we can take a break, relax, whatever. And we're like, throughout the day, we'll try to upgrade that red or upgrade the trout. The snook would be really impossible to upgrade at that point, the 33-inch. So I made a cast with the gold shrimp, not thinking anything of it, just bounce it on the bottom and it gets slammed, get a 24-inch red. So we like immediately upgraded that redfish on the next cast, which was pretty cool. Then I think we had some more hits there too, but couldn't get them in. Then we moved on to the next spot.
Yeah, and so then we went to a spot that wasn't based on the conditions, right? It wasn't the type of spot that I recommended in the game plan. It was a spot it was a GPS spot that in my mind, okay, I've been catching redfish here the past couple of weeks. They're going to be here, but it was the first spot that we went to and got skunked. Because again, it didn't fit the conditions. And I went back to my mistakes for many, many years of having like fixated spots that have caught fish previously, thinking that there'll always be fish there. And if the conditions aren't right, it's not going to work. And so even on tournament days, even when I preach not to do it, it's hard not to make that mistake. And so that was like 45 minutes lost. Mm-hmm. We actually did see some fish spooking off. So there were some fish there, but the water was just too skinny, just too much water had been pushed out. And those fish weren't holding where we thought they were. They're probably on some docks or something nearby.
So do you think the biggest factor there was just the amount of water that was pushed off of that area?
I think so.
Because we did go to another spot towards the end of the day that was similar, but the water had pushed up by then and actually got into some nice fish there too and missed some nice fish over there.
Yeah, and
different type of spot, but similar.
Yeah, but the second spot that worked better, there was it was a real shallow flat with a creek going down the middle, and so that creek got down to maybe 4 feet, and that was, I think, the extra depth is why that one ended up working better. So we left the skunk spot and then went to it was about time for lunch, and so we kept a couple ladyfish. We actually tried it. We did try to do some cut bait fishing just to see, and it was just to rest during lunch and put a couple chunks out. What's that?
Just the lunch break.
Yeah, just lunch, because I can't stand it. Like, it's just sitting there waiting. Like, I don't know. I guess my ADD kicks in. Like, I have to be doing something. So we had some rods out. Tony hooked in the shark or something. Yeah, Tony's rod actually keeled over pretty quick, and it's like, oh my gosh, it could be a giant red, and ends up being a shark. I cut him off. And so finished eating, and it's like, okay, I'm over this cut bait stuff. Let's get up and move. And went to an area that was again, I knew about that cut and the flat, and so far that day, every area that had a nice drop off near a shallow spot with wind protection was working. And this one creek, it did have a section of it that was wind protected, and so that was where I was going. And on the way there, I was throwing the Slam Shady again, the new one again, and I something bit the tail off. I just kept using it. And that's when we caught the biggest trout. So it was it was just over 20 inches, and hit the tailless Slam Shady. So even without the tail, you just give it it basically acts like a little jerk bait under the water, a little jerk shad. And so that finally got the trout. And so now that was our final fish. And so that was at maybe 1 o'clock-ish. Does that sound right, Tony?
Yeah, about 1:30.
Yeah. So we could have just picked up and left, and that would have actually changed our financial outcome at the end of the tournament. But we had to keep fishing, right? We wanted to. I really wanted to get a big red, and I was confident that we could either upgrade the redfish or the trout. And so we go to this creek, and I hook into something big. Like it was one of those things where I was reeling the slam shady. I stuck with the 2.0 one. I was reeling. I felt the thump, and like immediately the lure started ripping out. Like drag was ripping out, and it had to have been a big snook. But like shortly after, like whatever it was, as soon as its head just broke the surface, the lure came right out. So like super bummed. That was the third good fish I missed that day, and it drives me crazy. And so then shortly after that, maybe like a cast or two later, Tony, is that when you hooked up? What were we using on that one? I can't remember.
Well, I had a break off. I was using the gulp shrimp, casting out a little deeper, and I had a break off as soon as I set the hook. And then you noticed that something came up to the surface and splashed after it broke off. So lost a fish there. We think it was a really good trout. And then not too long after that, I was throwing a gulp shrimp again, put it back on because something hits it that big and breaks the line. I want to keep trying to use the same thing. So we went down that little cut, and I just threw it out, started bouncing it back, got slammed again, and that got a 31-inch snook on that cast. I was able to land him. That one was on 20-pound leader. Again, I don't know how I was able to get him in. Perfect hook set right in the corner of the mouth.
Yeah, and so that was incredible. Yeah, too. And I actually thought that one was bigger. Like it was fighting harder. It was jumping. It was going crazy. And so yeah, it was just such, catching a big snook is fun and stuff. But on tournament day and like slam day when snook are the hard ones to get, like to have 2 over 30 inches, it was such a thrill.
Yeah.
And
you guys caught a ton of fish.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, and obviously a lot of junk fish throughout. I mean, Tony caught a grouper on the docks. We caught a ton of ladyfish. It was like ladyfish everywhere. So then at this point it was like 1:30ish or so, and really wanted to get a bigger red. And so we decided to do some sight fishing, and so started going down this flat. It was actually the wind protected side of Indian Key, and it was going down, and we were looking, started seeing some mullet, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, I think you spotted it first, Tony. You saw like something big moving.
No, you saw it, then you lost it. Couldn't find it, and I kept staring over there. Finally saw something move and found it again. It just
giant redfish.
It's like it just buried itself in the mud or grass or whatever.
Yeah, it was like a Houdini redfish, because like we were being super quiet, and this redfish, like we both saw it. It was looking towards us, but it was like good 50, 60 feet out. There's no way it knew we were there, and so we were just being real stealthy and like trying to get up to it to get a better look to figure out which way it's going to try to sight cast it. And the thing disappeared. Like I've never seen a fish that size evaporate like that. Like it didn't wake off, and we sat there for a while to kind of just nose inside and side to side, thinking it would kind of bury itself down. But I have no idea what happened to that thing.
Yeah,
so we never
thought it might have been a shark, but if it was, you would have seen the fin come out of the water.
Yeah,
it was too shallow. It wasn't a stingray because it wasn't flat.
Yeah, it had a
mystery redfish.
It was the mystery redfish. And so that was a bummer there, but and so kept going down the shoreline. Didn't really see much else, and then it was like almost 3:00 by that point, and I was going to go check out one more spot. Actually, there's a boat in it, and then I was trying to decide if we should just go in or try one more, and so we went back to that dock where the 24-inch red was, thinking there'd be some better fish, and we had a few strikes. I don't think we caught anything on the second round back, did we?
I got a snook on our way up to that.
That's right.
That dock. Then we had a few misses and strikes, and we called it a day.
Yeah. And so then Otis, I didn't have a sitter for Otis. My dog Otis was sitting in the house all day, and so kind of felt bad about that. And we had to get the tournament weigh-in. And so the tiebreaker, if somehow there is a tie in these tournaments, it's the first one back to the weigh-in wins. And I just didn't think what are the odds? I never really considered that to be a factor. And so I was taking my time. We cleaned off the boat, cleaned off the rods. I had let Otis go out, fed him and everything, even changed clothes, and then just kind of slowly made our way to the weigh-in. We had plenty of time to get there before 4:00. And but turns out that we ended up tying for first on length. So we had 77 and a quarter inches, and so did another team. And the next closest was, I think, 73 inches.
73, 74.
Yeah, which was awesome, right? So like, we just by using a good game plan with a good lure, or really we just used 2 lures. We were successfully competing with very experienced anglers who, most of which, at least all that I talked to, were using live or cut bait. And so it was just a really cool testament to the fact that, it's not about having to fish a body of water for 20 plus years to learn it. You don't have to have like the best, liveliest live bait. You just need to know the types of spots to go to based on the conditions and have a good lure to put in the fish's face.
Like Slam Shady. And if a tail does get bitten off, don't trash it. It sounds like you caught like half your fish on just the little nub.
Yeah, it's weird that the trout seem to prefer, not prefer, but the trout definitely were hitting the tailless paddle tail aggressively. But lately, I've been catching my best redfish doing that too. And the reason why, at least the reason why I think it is especially in the cold season, that the paddle tail is just drag on the bait. So fishing the deeper docks, a paddle tail is actually slowing the descent down. And so when the tail's gone, it just drops faster. It has like a quicker little hops up and down when you're jigging it. And sometimes that actually works better. So I definitely keep my tailless ones just for that situation, for fishing deeper water. But fishing the shallows, you really need that tail to keep it elevated, keep it a little bit higher up, so that's not just dragging in the dirt or in the mud.
You're basically going from a bait fish profile to a shrimp profile without that tail on there.
Yeah, but the snook. So I don't think I caught any snook that day on the tailless one. I caught my redfish both on the paddle with the tail, and I caught the biggest trout without the tail, and then a handful of other trout without the tail. But yeah, so it was really fun, and it was a day that not the best conditions, cold. Like I think on the weather, like the feel like temperature, it was in like the low to mid 50s all day long, which for like in Florida in March, that's not normal. That is
No.
It was extremely cold. Wind was ripping. We got soaking wet having to cross some bays. But again, the fish are biting, right? If you plan the trip based on the conditions, as long as you do it properly, then you can still have a ton of fun.
Yep. It was tough just to find wind protection. I mean, one point we thought the wind was coming out of the east, then we turned a corner, it was coming out of the north. We turned a corner, it's coming out of the west.
Yeah.
It was like just wrapping around the islands, wrapping around the shorelines.
It's called a tornado, Tony.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
That was it.
Yeah, because we were fishing a dock line that was protected from the north wind, and the wind was hitting us hard from the east, and I was like, man, like what is going on here? And it was so strong that it was wrapping around the island and just shooting down the shoreline parallel. And so the only wind protection was like the very tip of it, and that's coincidentally where Tony caught those snook. It was like the fish were exactly where they were supposed to be, and it was just really, it was nice to see that, even in terrible conditions, just having a proper game plan can still be a ton of fun. I thought, like, I was literally just hoping that we'd get a slam. I didn't care what. I was hoping to get like a 30-inch slam, like a 10-inch of everything. I had no, I don't know. I did not expect to be in the 70 plus inches.
Yeah, I had pretty low expectations on my way. I was driving over to St. Pete from Orlando, and I was just staring at the bright full moon the whole way there, which was another factor. That definitely helps drive the tide, push that water out even more. And, those fish will feed overnight, especially if it's a bright, clear night. That just makes it easier for them to feed and ambush their prey. So a lot of factors against us, but we'll pull through.
And this whole coronavirus thing, geez.
Yeah.
Fish are definitely
Wash my hands after every fish.
I really like that meme that's going around. It was one of the news anchors, I think like a CNN guy or something, and it was the caption is fishing cures coronavirus or something like that. We were out there getting cured from coronavirus.
It was
and get it on the water.
No, it was smell of two-stroke.
Smell of two-stroke. No, there's multiple ones out there.
Smell of two-stroke engine cures coronavirus or something like that. Yeah. And you had your little Yamaha. So,
yep.
So, guys, if you like that, here's what you have to do next. Join the Insider Club. if you're already a member, you get these smart fishing game plans along with now massive discounts. We got everything from Slam Shady to cast net rods, reels, sunglasses, you name it. And of course, if you're not a member, join us. Risk-free. Don't you wish all companies did that, Luke, Tony? 100% money-back guarantee for a whole year.
Oh, yeah.
Either you catch more fish, save time, save money, or you don't pay. So come join us. I will put a link in the show notes, but otherwise just go to saltstrong.com. If you want to grab a free pack, if you haven't already, I don't know if we have them in by time this goes live. We should, but it's slamshady.com, slamshady.com. We are getting one free pack in every angler's hand, and we want you to use them. We want you to try them out and give us feedback. This is Slam Shady 2.0. We're going to probably have a 3.0 before it's all said and done, just based on your feedback. Great action, super easy to rig this one, 3.5 inches, scented, and it is scientifically proven in terms of the color and the pattern in this mold to get more strikes, to catch fish. And it's proven to work even without the paddle tail. So that's at slamshitty.com. And of course, come join the Insider Club at saltstrong.com. And you'll get to see more of us doing this, including all of our spots. And now there's almost 12,500 of us, right? Getting closer to 13,000 members.
12,600.
12,600.
Yeah, so if you like catching redfish, sea trout, flounder, snook, I mean, this is the club for you. This is really the ultimate club to really get to really get down the details and knowing the fish behavior on exactly how they move and why they move based on the conditions. And once you know that, it doesn't matter where you're fishing, you can consistently catch fish. And that's why we offer the guarantee. We have members from Texas. We have 1,000 members over in Texas, all the way along the Gulf, up the Atlantic, up to Virginia. And the same strategies are working because, again, those fish behave. They have the same biology. They react to the changing environments the exact same way. And so, yeah, just knowing the details is it'll work regardless of which region you fish.
Yeah, and use all different types of tactics too. It's not just fishing from a boat or fishing from a kayak. I've gone out to piers and jetties. I've also done a report I just did the week before we did this podcast. I went out and used side imaging to target schools of fish around bridges, and I showed our members exactly where I went, how I used my machine, and what to actually see on the machine to target those fish. So all different types of tactics in there that we share. Like
one member said, it's like having a full-time fishing guide in your back pocket or a full-time fishing guide on speed dial. Pretty awesome. And if you can out bench press and out squat and out fish Tony, you get free membership for 3 years. But you have to do all three of those. So good luck.
At the same time.
It's the same time. Guys, thank you so much for all the support, all the love. Get your free pack, Slam Shady Lures, your free sample pack at slamshady.com, and go join us in the Insider Club at saltstrong.com. We'd love to see you in there. It's a really amazing, tight-knit community. We have our own private community that's online that we've built, and everyone loves it. You should be in there if you're not. Come hang out with us.
Sure.
We be out until next time. See you guys. Great job this past weekend.
It was fun. Yeah, I'll be putting that video together real soon. It'll be up, but it's going to be we have some great footage. It's going to be a good one.
Sweet. Peace.
Take it easy.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was pain.